Thank you for the great introduction. It's a real pleasure and privilege to be here today. I'm here today to talk about the transformative power of art, my journey with dance and mental health. So, I've already blanked already, there we go. So, I'm going to start off talking about, in my career, I've had the great privilege and pleasure to witness many, many times the power of art, whether that's working with young vulnerable adults in Manchester, or whether that's going to Cape Town, South Africa and working with young offenders there, whether that's working with young adults with mental health issues. I see it on a daily basis. And what is it do I see? What is it that I see? I see them transform in front of my eyes. I see their confidence develop. I see them developing their physical skills. I see them developing their strength, their flexibility, their coordination, their balance, their sense of achievement. On more of a kind of an emotional and a psychological perspective, I also see them developing a way and a mechanism to express their own internal world, which I think is incredibly important, incredibly cathartic. Alongside that, they really get some wonderful social skills as well. They're able to develop communication, creativity, and collaboration, which I think you all agree is incredibly key. Now, I could go into and talk about those examples in great depth and in great length, but I'm just going to focus it a little bit about me today, because I did say that in my title of my talk, it is about my journey with dance and mental health. So I'm going to focus back onto me. So my journey, where did I start from? I come from very humble origins. I was brought up on a council estate in Manchester by my mum. There was no artists in my family whatsoever. We never went to galleries or theatres. We probably couldn't have afforded to go, in real honesty. But I always understood movement and dance. Some people understand math. Some people understand music. For me, it was movement. It's just something that was intrinsic to me. I mean, even before I knew what the word choreography was, I was choreographing fight and martial arts scenes with my younger brother to great detail and great accuracy. And it was just something that was just intrinsic to me. Excuse me. I then was very fortunate to be picked up by somebody in my high school, in my primary school, sorry. And they took me along to a local youth dance group. And from there, that's when this whole world of possibilities opened. I found a way, a vessel to be able to explore this internal world, all these feelings and anxieties and emotions that I had on inside of me. It was a great way for me to be able to put that into something positive and constructive. I moved on from that and went on to professional training. I got my first class degree, BA. I'm very proud of that. And from there, I went on to work with some of the foremost national and international touring dance companies and choreographer-led companies, which was absolutely fantastic. I toured all over the world, met some incredible people, did some incredible things, and had some incredible experiences. But throughout all that time, from my late teens onwards, I was hiding something. I was hiding something, the biggest secret of my life, and that's that I was struggling with my mental health. It first manifested as depression. I didn't even know what that word meant at that time. I didn't have the vocabulary. I didn't have the emotional literacy to be able to explain that to someone. I just knew something was wrong. As it carried on through my 20s, it increasingly got worse and worse and worse. If you would have met me in that time, you would have gone, wow, Kevin, man, you're touring the world, you're doing this, you're working with that person, you're doing that. Life seems so great and so successful. But I'd go home at night and I'd take off my mask and I'd sob myself to sleep, or if I could even get to sleep, if my mind would let me. So there I was, in this situation, in this place, and it reached a crisis point in my early 30s. And unfortunately, I was sectioned under the Mental Health Act, and I had to spend some time in hospital. And that's where I got my diagnosis of bipolar. If anyone doesn't know what bipolar is, it pretty much says what it is on the tin. It's kind of two extremes, one polar to the next. One is depression, the other is mania. During my crisis, I was so unbelievably unwell, it actually tipped into psychosis. So I saw things, heard things, had delusions, believed things that weren't real. All kinds of craziness happened to me. And I saw a whole lot of things in the hospital that, to be honest with you, I think most people, if you weren't of a sound mind, even if you were of a sound mind, would probably find quite disturbing. And it showed me the lack of provision that we have for mental health, but that's a whole other debate. As I came out of hospital and I started to pick the pieces of my life back together again, I was like, okay, how can I help somebody in my position who was like that, a bloke like me, yeah? How could I help them? And for me, I'm an artist, so I understand about movement, I understand about creation, so I decided to make a piece about it, which I called Witness. And the reason why I called it Witness was it was all about what the audience would witness, what I witnessed, and what my family witnessed. I wanted the piece not just to be about what happened to me, but also the impact that it had on my family as well, which is really, really important. As part of the research, I interviewed my family. I asked them questions, my family and my loved ones, my friends, asked them questions about what was it like, what did I do, how did you feel, what did you experience, any kind of stories, any kind of anecdotes. And to be completely honest with you, I was so literally off the reservation. All I had was little snippets of thoughts or images or feelings. There was no sense of timeline. Everything was thrown up in the air. It also gave me an opportunity when I interviewed my family and friends to apologize and take responsibility for some of my outrageous behavior, and it was outrageous. But I wasn't very well at all. So there, I took all these pieces of bits of stories, anecdotes, feelings, and I started to coalesce ideas together and create scenes, and I built and created the piece. So, what I'd like to show you guys is a little extract of that piece, because a picture is 1,000 words. Sorry guys, I have to move on. So there I was, I made this piece, great, we went into theatres, performed it into a few thousand different people up and down the country, fantastic, got some great reviews, got some great feedback. But I still wasn't really satisfied because only a certain type of person really goes to the theatre. And the type of person that I am, where my community comes from, they really don't go to the theatre. So part of what I do, the kind of work I make, is I like to take choreography out onto the street, into public spaces, unconventional spaces. And I was like, okay, so luckily I managed to get a commission together, and I decided to make an outdoor version of this piece called Witness This, which was half the length. The theatre piece was a full hour. The outdoor show was half an hour. And what was great about that is it gave the opportunity for people who would not go to the theatre to experience this story unfold in front of them. So I'm going to show you a little clip of that. And what's really special about this is that literally all types of people got to watch it, and witness it, which I think was really important. guys. So, we took it outside, that was fantastic, absolutely loved it. Now I just want to share a couple of anecdotes with you of some people who never seen dance before, like ever, really. One old elderly gentleman and his son came up to me after one of the performances, witnessed this when we did the show outside, the performance outside. And the gentleman came up to me and he was like, you know, last year I lost my wife. And he started talking to me about all those difficult experiences that he'd gone through and how he felt and what he went through. And he was telling me about all this stuff. And his son, who was about my age, was stood next to him like this, with his mouth wide open. And after the gentleman had spoken and passed on his feedback, his son turned around to his father and said, "Dad, you've never said any of that at all before." And I thought that really, really moved me, because I think it really allowed people the permission to be able to talk about these things. And talking about these things is always the best thing, because that's the only way that you're ever going to get better about it. Another anecdote, we were performing in Salisbury, and a young lady came up to me after the show and she handed me a note. And she said, "Thank you so much for the performance. This has really made me think twice about killing myself." I was like, whoa. I didn't realize that it was going to have that much an effect on somebody. So luckily I was able to get some aftercare crisis care, took her to the places that she needed to go to, and she was able to get some advice and seek some advice. People are dying out there, yeah? And unfortunately, for me, you know, I suffered for 10 years because of fear. Fear. Oh, am I insane? Nobody's going to give me a job. It's going to ruin my reputation and my career. Fear that I'm weak. Fear of guilt and shame. Fear. And it all just needs to be pushed away to one side. The future is now, remember. And the taboo of mental health needs to stay in the past. Legacy. One last thing to finish with. What was really important, yeah, I did the stage show, great, wonderful reviews, fantastic. Did the outdoor show, contacted people that would never have seen theatre or dance theatre in that way before. The last thing that we did is I've made a lecture demonstration about it to take it into schools. And we've done that now with seven schools we've done it with, where we go in as a lecture demonstration, we show the show, we do workshops around the ideas and the themes of mental health, give them a whole scheme of work and a syllabus that they work with. And what's fantastic about that is that they've really got an opportunity to discuss these themes. And you know what? I was so surprised by how mature and smart the young people were. And they already knew. They already knew about these things. But it was great to be able to develop that awareness, generate that conversation, generate that discussion. So my last thing I'm just going to show you is a little bit of that project. So you can hear from the kids.
There was a program on television about a dancer who'd set up a project and was trying to give something back to a younger dancer.
And Frank, my old primary school head teacher, he saw that program and was like, "Oh my goodness, like, there's Kevin," and he's still dancing, because he actually gave me my first dance experience in school.
You know, it was interesting to get a feel for his journey, his life story, and around mental health issues, it was something that I was very keen to sort of try and give a chance to the students around here in our academies in North Manchester.
The project is a partnership between Company Chameleon and the Cooperatives Academies Trust, and it is a network of 3 of their schools. We came into one of the schools and we did a performance of Witness This, which is a piece exploring mental health. And then we had a day of workshops and activity. And then from the experiences they had of the performance and of the workshop, they made their own piece in response to everything they experienced.
We've been doing the dance about bipolar, and it's the way it's where some days you feel high and some days you feel dead low and upset and angry.
I think dancing about mental health can help lots of people, because it's like a creative way of showing people you can dance it differently than when you're saying it.
So we've been learning different choreography by the dancers.
We've been working as a group trying to get fluency, and we've been working in pairs trying to get it all synchronised.
We've learnt new techniques, learned how to show your emotions through your dancing, facial expressions.
At the start, I didn't really know much about the message of the story. I've learnt that it's a common thing and it happens to everybody.
So I have to leave it right there because I'm running out of time, but I hope I've demonstrated the transformative power of the arts. And if I'm going to leave with one thing, I'll repeat it one more time. Future is now. Let's leave the taboo of mental health in the past. Thank you very much.